Alright. Greetings all, Shardvixen here. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Conan comic books. Let me move some stuff around here. We're going to talk about Conan. We talked about the author, Robert E. Howard, who had sadly perished in his life. So we talked about that, but we're going to talk about too Conan, the books, the movies, all kinds of stuff, and then we'll talk about this. How I'm doing this is not just a review. I talk about how the comic books are connected in my life, but I also talk about how they were connected to other people's lives as well. Then we're working on the camera, like I said, and then from there we're going to do some journaling. I have some ideas that I want to do. I got some, so I finished the flower. And then I want to do some tactile stuff, so I got these I bought specifically for me. And then I've got some ribbon that I also kind of bought. This ribbon I bought for another journal, but I bought this one for me. I really like the look of it, which I might use in paintings as well too. So we got that. And then after I build the whole journal, then we'll, hey Feely, thanks for stopping by. We'll do more decorating, but I like to do some set decorations, on the, not like set, like a TV show set, but like get them down on the paper and then I come back and recolor on them and stuff. So, alright, let me pull up some stuff here. I want some information about Conan the Barbarian. Okay. Now, I've seen all the Conan movies, but my favorite Conan movie, of course, is with Jason Momoa. I think that Arnold Schwarzenegger did a good visual of what Conan would look like, but I think that Jason Momoa did just a little bit more. Like, just, to me, just one more step up over that whole concept. But we're going to look at just Conan the Barbarian first. Then we'll talk about some of that other stuff. One of my favorite artists who did Conan the Barbarian is Frank Frazetta. He's just one of my favorite artists to begin with, but he does a lot. He did a lot of science fiction and fantasy. I'm gonna bring him up as well. There are others who were really good at that, but Frank Frazetta, if you get a chance, you should go look at his artwork. Now, he died in 2010 at 82 years old. Frank Frazetta did, but we will talk about Frank Frazetta. My favorite one is the one with the barbarian on the horse. They used it in a Molly Hatchet album as well in the 70s. So I have a lot of artists that I like from that time period. Boris Vallejo is another one. But anyway, so we're gonna read about some of this. Let me pull this up so I can look at it. Okay. Alright. So let's, before I get into the comic books, let's read about Conan. So, Conan the Barbarian, also known as Conan the Cimmerian, is a fictional sword and sorcery hero created by American author Robert E. Howard, and who debuted in 1932, went on to appear in a series of fantasy stories published in Weird Tales magazine. After first appearing in pulp magazines, the character has since been adapted to books, comics, films, including Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer, television programs, animated and live action, video games, and role-playing games. The earliest appearance of a Robert E. Howard character named Conan was that of the black-haired barbarian with heroic attributes in the 1931 short story People of the Dark. Before Howard's death, he wrote 21 stories starring the barbarian. Over the years, many other writers have written works featuring Conan. So he's been portrayed by Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 1982 and 1984 films, Jorge Sanaz in a 1982 film. I'm assuming of the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He played him as the child. Ralph Mahler. The O has the two little dots on the top. I don't know how to pronounce that. The television series, which I didn't know it was a Conan television series. Jason Momoa, the 2011 film. Leo Howard played him as his young self in the Jason Momoa movie. And he's been voiced by Michael Donovan in Conan the Adventurer, which I played a little bit. Phil Hayes by Conan the Young Warriors. Ron Perlman in 2007 video game. I didn't know that. Matthew Watterson in the Conan Exiles, and Chris Cox in Mortal Kombat 1. His species is human, his gender is male, his occupation current is king, former is adventurer, pirate, warrior, slave, gladiator, thief, and his origin is from Samaria and Hyboria. Okay? So I know that we had talked about, because I can't read the books anymore, but I thought that this is a better way to do it, just to give you a little bit of pop information about stuff, why we like it, why we don't like it, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know that Rod Perlman did the 2007 video game. Which one is that? Oh, that's the one I played, Conan, on the Xbox. Or actually, this one's not on the Xbox. Which one is this on? Oh, yeah, Xbox 360. So that was the one I had. I have the actual disc. I didn't know that was Ron Perlman. So in that one, yeah, I didn't know.
Okay.
I didn't make that connection.
He has a very unique voice. Okay.
He does have a very unique voice, but when I played it, I didn't say, oh, that's Ron Perlman, because I wasn't thinking of it. Maybe I did. It's been a while since I played the game, because of the Xbox 360 game. Don't be a pill, Roger. So Conan is a 2007 action-adventure game developed by Nihilistic Software and published by THQ for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Players take control of the titular hero, meaning the hero that talks about, Conan the Barbarian, from Robert E. Howard's fantasy lecture. In Conan, the hero is on a quest to recover his lost armor and defeat an evil wizard. Conan can fight with a sword and a shield, two-handed weapons, and a weapon in each hand. Starting with several basic attacks, the barbarian gains experience points. I played this. I think I actually may have made recordings of it for my channel, but I'd have to go back and look. The games I played. Anyway, we're going to go back to talking about Conan here. Many Conan the Barbarian stories featured Conan embarking on heroic adventures filled with common fantasy elements such as princesses and wizards. Howard's Mythopedia has the story set in the legendary Hyborian Age in the times after the fall of Atlantis. Conan is a Cimmerian who are the descendants of the Atlanteans and the ancestors of the modern Gauls. Gauls? Gaels. I know what it is. It's from Galt. But I'm not sure how you say that. Conan is himself a descendant of Kull of Atlantis and earlier adventures of Howard's. He was born on a battlefield and is the son of a blacksmith. Conan is characterized as a chivalric due to his penchant to save damsels in distress. He possesses great strength, combativeness, intelligence, agility, and endurance. The barbarian's appearance is iconic, with square-cut black hair, blue eyes, tan skin, giant statue, and often wearing a barbarian garb. Licensed comic books published in the 1970s by Marvel Comics drew further popularity to the character, introducing the now iconic image of Conan in his loincloth. Most popular cinematic adaptation is the 1982 film Conan the Barbarian, directed by John Millis and starring Arnold Schwarzenegger as Conan. I don't know if that I would agree with that, but okay. Robert E. Howard created Conan the Barbarian in a series of fantasy stories, which we already said, from Weird Tales. Howard was searching for a new character to market to the pulp outlets of the early 1930s. In October of 1931, he submitted the short story People of the Dark to Clayton Publications' new magazine, Strange Tales of Mystery and Terror, June 1932. People of the Dark is a story about the remembrance of past lives, and in its first-person narrative, the protagonist describes one of his previous incarnations. Conan is a black-haired barbarian hero who swears by a deity called Crom. Some Howard scholars believe that this Conan to be a forerunner of the more famous character. In February of 1932, Howard vacationed at a border town on the lower Rio Grande. During this trip, he further conceived the character of Conan and also wrote the poem Cimmeria, much of which echoes specific passages in Plutarch's Lives. According to some scholars, reading Thomas Bulfinch inspired Howard to consolidate into a coherent whole his literary aspirations and the strong physical autobiography elements underlining the creation of Conan. Having digested these influences upon returning from trip, Howard rewrote a rejected story, By This Axe I Rule, May 1929, replacing his existing character Cole of Atlantis, which there's a movie of Cole, with his new hero and retitling it The Phoenix of the Sword. Howard also wrote The Scarlet Citadel and The Frost Giant's Daughter, inspired by the Greek myth of Daphne, and submitted both stories to Weird Tales magazines. Although The Frost Giant's Daughter was rejected, the magazine accepted The Phoenix on the Sword after it received the required polishing and published it in the December 1932 issue. The Scarlet Citadel was published in the following month. The Phoenix on the Sword appeared in Weird Tales, cover dated December 1932. Editor Farnsworth Wright subsequently promoted Howard to write an 8,000-word essay for personal use detailing the Hyborian Age, the fictional setting for Conan. Using this essay as his guideline, Howard began plotting The Tower of the Elephant, a new Conan story that was the first to integrate his new conception of the Hyborian world. So, the publication and the success of The Tower of the Elephant spurred Howard to write more Conan stories for Weird Tales. By the time Howard's suicide in 1936, he had written 21 complete stories, 17 of which had been published, as well as multiple unfinished fragments. Following Howard's death,
I have read for an hour.
you have what?
I have read for an hour.
Okay, I need a piece of paper with it on there with the title so I can sign it. Following Howard's death, the copyright of Conan's stories passed through several hands. Eventually, L. Sprock de Camp, who is a fictional writer as well, was entrusted with the management of the fiction line and began with the 1967's Conan, released by Lancer Books. Oversaw a paperback series collecting all of Howard's stories. Lancer folded in 1973, and Ace Books picked up the line, reprinting the older volumes with a new trade dress and continuing to release new ones. Now, that's probably what I read. So, I read a book, and I'm going to guess that's probably the book I had, and I would have to look to see if I still have it. I don't have the Conan books. I have some other books by him. Howard's original stories received additional edits by DeCamp, and DeCamp also decided to create additional Conan stories to publish along the originals, working with Bourgeon, Nyberg, and especially Lynn Carter. These new stories were created from a mixture of already completed Howard stories with different settings and characters that were altered to feature Conan and the Hyborian setting. Instead, incomplete fragments and outlines for Conan stories that were never completed by Howard, and all new pastiches. I don't know what that word means. Let me look it up. Paschet is a work of visual art, literature, theater, music, or architecture that imitates the style or the character of the work of one or more other artists. Unlike parody, pastiture pays homage to the work it imitates rather than mocking it. Oh, I do that a lot. Okay, lastly, DeCamp created preferences for each story, fitting them into a timeline of Conan's life that he created. For roughly 40 years, the original versions of Howard's Conan stories remained out of print. In 1977, the publisher Berkeley Books issued 3 volumes using the earliest published form of text from Weird Tales, and thus no DeCamp edits, with Carl Edward Wagner as the series editor, but these were halted by action from DeCamp before the remaining 3 intended volumes could be released. In the 1980s and the 1990s, the copyright holders permitted Howard's stories to go out of print entirely as the public demand for sword and sorcery dwindled, but continued to release the occasional new Conan novel by other authors such as Leonardo Carpenter, Ronlin Green, and Harry Turtledove. Of those 3, I only know Harry Turtledove. Harry Turtledove does a lot of alternate Earth stories. So, in 2000, the British publisher Gollancz Science Fiction issued a 2-volume complete edition of Howard's Conan stories as part of its Fantasy Masterworks imprint, which included several stories that had never seen print in their original form. The Gollancz edition mostly used the versions of the stories as published in Weird Tales. The 2 volumes were combined and the stories restored to chronicle order as the Complete Chronicles of Conan Centennial Edition in 2006, edited and with an afterword by Steve Jones. In 2003, another British publisher, Wandering Star Books, made an effort both to restore Howard's original manuscripts and to provide a more scholarly historical view of the Conan stories. It published hardcover editions in England, which were republished in the United States by Del Rey imprint about Ballantine Books. The first book, Conan of Cimmeria, Volume 1, 1932 to 1933, 2003, published in the U.S. as The Coming of Conan the Cimmerian. Oh, it's got a nice cover. Includes Howard's notes on his fictional settings as well as letters and poems concerning the genesis of his ideas. This was followed by Conan of the Cimmerian, Volume 2, 1934, 2004, published in the U.S. as The Bloody Crown of Conan, and Conan of Cimmerian, Volume 3, 1935 to 1936, 2005, published in the U.S. as The Conquering Sword of Conan. These 3 volumes include all the original Conan stories. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about, did we have a drop in my stream? I think my stream might have dropped. Okay, my stream's been dropping all day. I have to tell you, there's nothing I can do with it. I've tried. It won't work. Alright, so we're going to talk about the setting of Conan. And this is the Hyborian Age. The stories occur in a fictional Hyborian age set after the destruction of Atlantis and before the rise of any historical ancient civilization. This is the specific epoch in the fictional timeline created by Howard for many of the low fantasy tales of his artificial legendary. Howard invented the Hyborian Age as a useful literary device. He had an intense love for history and historical dramas, but he also recognized the difficulties and the time-consuming research work needed in maintaining a historical accuracy. Also, the poorly stocked libraries in the rural part of Texas where Howard lived did not have the material needed for such research. By conceiving the fictional...
You dropped the pen.
I have a pen. Okay, so what's this say?
Oh, that's the wrong one. That's Angel's outline.
Yeah, bring it back.
It's on the other side.
Well, it shouldn't be on that. So, 1 hour. Today's date.
And also counting my
7,
book long because
10.
I did my 30 pages with it.
You have to read a separate 30 minutes.
Oh.
It doesn't. You can't use the hour. You can't double dip.
Oh. Oh.
Okay, so you gotta read another 30 minutes for a different log. This is just for me. You have to add that with your book log though when you turn it in. Sorry. By conceiving a fictional vanished age and choosing names that resembled historical ones, Howard avoided anachronisms and the need for lengthy exposition. According to the Phoenix on the Sword, the adventures of Conan take place between the years when the oceans drank Atlantis and the gleaming cities, and the years of the rise of the son of Eros, which is Aryan, or Era, in the term originating from the ethnocultural self-designation of the Indo-Iranians. It stood in contrast to nearby outsiders whom they designate a non-Aryan. In the ancient Indian, the term was used by the Indo-Aryan peoples of the Vedic period. Interesting. Okay. So, hither came Conan, the Cimmerian, black-haired, sullen-eyed, sword in hand, a thief, a reaver, a slayer, with gigantic melancholies and gigantic mirth, to tread the jewel thrones of earth under his sandal feet. So that was from the Phoenix of the Sword. Conan is a Cimmerian. The writings of Robert E. Howard, particularly his essay, The Hyborian Age, suggest that his Cimmerians are based on Celts, or perhaps the historic Cimmerians. Conan was born on a battlefield and is the son of a village blacksmith, as we said before. Conan matured quickly as a youth, and by the age 15 he is already a respected warrior who has participated in the destruction of Aquilian fortress of Ben Arium. After its demise, he was struck by wanderlust and began the adventures chronicled by Howard, encountering sulking monsters, evil wizards, tavern wenches, and beautiful princesses. He roamed throughout the Hyborian Age nation as a thief, outlaw, mercenary, and pirate. As he grew older, he began commanding vast units of warriors and escalating his ambition. In his 40s, he seized the crown from the tyrannical king of Aquilion, the most powerful kingdom of the Hyborian Age, having strangled the previous ruler on the steps of his own throne. Conan's adventures often result in him performing heroic feats, though his motivation for doing so is largely to protect his own survival or for personal gain. The conspicuous element of Conan's character is his chivalry. He is extremely reluctant to fight women, even when they fight him, and has a strong tendency to save a damsel in distress. In the Jewels of Gahul, he has to make a split-second decision whether to save the dancing girl, Muriel, or the chest of priceless gems which he spends months in search of. So, without hesitation, he rescues Muriel and allows for the treasure to be irrevocably lost. I know the word. Irrevocably lost. In The Black Stranger, Conan saves the exile Garan, Lady Belesia, at considerable risk for himself, giving her as a parting gift his future fortunes in gems big enough to have a comfortable and wealthy life in Zigara, while asking for no favors in return. Reviewer Jennifer Bard also noted that when Conan is in a pirate crew or a robber gang led by another male, his tendency is to subvert and undermine the leader's authority, and eventually supplant or often kill him. Pool of the Black One, A Witch Shall Be Born, Shadows in the Moonlight. Conversely, in The Queen of the Black Coast, it is noted that Conan generally agrees with Belet's plans. Okay, so Belet is a character, and there she is. She is oh, that is sad. I'm sorry. So here she is right here. This is Belet. And Belet was I said Red Sonja was one of my favorite characters when I was a teen. Belet is as well. Conan and Red Sonja was bought. Well, Conan specifically, I bought them when I was in elementary school. I know. Can you imagine? It's a good thing my parents didn't read my comic books, otherwise they might have been upset by them. Hers was the mind that directed their raids. His was the arm that carried out her plans. It was a good life, and at the end of Red Nails, Conan and Valeria seemed to be headed towards a reasonable, amicable, piratal partnership. I think that was maybe a misprint for that. I love some of the fan art that's out there for Conan. So if you ever get a chance to look it up, if you're not, really interested, that's fine. Conan has a sullen, smoly, and volcanic blue eyes with black, square-cut mane. Howard once described him as having a hairy chest, and while comic book interpretations often portrayed Conan as wearing a loin cloth and other minimalist clothing to give him a more barbaric image, Howard describes the character as wearing whatever garb is typical for the kingdom and the culture in which Conan finds himself. Howard never gave a strict height or weight for Conan in a story, only describing him in loose terms like giant and massive. In the tales, no human is ever described as being shorter than Conan, although a few are mentioned as taller, including the Strangler and Bel Petor, or of larger bulk. In a letter to P. Shulkin Miller and John D. Clark in 1937, only 3 months before Howard's death, Conan is described as standing 6 feet and weighing 180 pounds when he takes part in the attack of the on Varium at only 15 years old, though being far from fully grown. At one point, when he is meeting Juma in Kush, he describes Conan as tall as his friend at nearly 7 feet, 2.1 meter in height. Conan himself says in Beyond the Black River that he has not yet seen 15 snows at the Battle of Venarium. At Venarium, he is already a formidable antagonist, though only 15. He stood 6 feet, 1.83 meters, and weighed 180 pounds, though he lacked much of his full growth. So, and although Conan is muscular, Howard frequently compares his agility and the ways of moving to that of a panther. See, for instance, Jewel, the other books. His skin is frequently characterized as bronze from constant exposure to the sun. In his younger years, he often is depicted wearing a light chainmail shirt and a horn helmet, though appearances vary with different stories. Okay, so I think that's enough of that. Howard frequently corresponded with H.P. Lovecraft, and the two would sometimes insert references or elements of each other's story settings in their works. Later editors reworked many of the original Conan stories by Howard, thus diluting this connection. Nevertheless, many of Howard's unedited Conan stories are argumentally part of the Cthulhu mythos. Additionally, many of Conan's stories by Howard D. Camp and Carter used geographical place names from Clark Anston Simpson's Hyperion Cycle. Okay. So there are 17 books total, 17 stories of Conan total. There are 3 that were published in the 1950s, 1960s that were not, they were Howard's, but he didn't, Robert Howard's, but he wasn't alive at the time. I was looking at books. So it said Momoa as Conan in 2011. Okay, so actually let's go back up here. Okay, so we're going to talk about films. Schwarzenegger as Conan, 1980s. The first Conan cinematic project was planned by Edward Summer. Summer envisioned a series of Conan films, much like James Bond franchise. He outlined 6 stories for this film series, but none was ever made. An original screenplay by Summer and Roy Thomas, remember Roy Thomas had written in books, was written, but their lore authentic screen story was never filmed. However, the resulting film, Conan the Barbarian 1982, was a combination of director John Millet's idea and plots from Conan stories written also by Howard's successors, notably Lynn Carter and L. Sprott de Camp. And then the plot of Conan the Barbarian, 1982, begins with Conan being enslaved by the Vanir raiders of the Thulsa Doom, a malevolent warlord who is responsible for the slaying of Conan's parents and the genocide of his people. Later, Thulsa Doom becomes a cult leader of a religion that worships Set, the snake god. The vengeful Conan, the archer Sabotai, the thief Valeria, set out on a quest to rescue the princess held captive by Thulsa Doom. I don't know why I said it once and can't say it again. The film was directed by John Millison and produced by Dino De Laurentiis. The character of Conan was played by George Sands as a child and Arnold Schwarzenegger as an adult. It was his breakthrough role as an actor for Schwarzenegger. The film was followed by a less popular sequel, Conan the Destroyer. The sequel was a more typical fantasy genre film and was even less faithful to Howard Conan's stories, being just a picturesque story of a assorted bunch of adventurers. The third film in the Conan trilogy was planned for 1987 to be titled Conan the Conqueror. The director was to be either Guy Hamilton or John Gilmour. Since Arnold Schwarzenegger was committed to the film Predator and De Laurentiis' contract with the star had expired after his obligation to Red Sonja and Raw Deal, he was not keen to negotiate a new one. Thus, the third Conan film sank into development hell. The script was eventually turned into Kull the Conqueror. I have that one, Kull the Conqueror. Momoa as Conan. There was rumors in the late 1990s of another Conan sequel, a story about an older Conan titled King Conan, Crown of the Iron, but Schwarzenegger's election in 2003 as governor of California ended this project. Warner Brothers spent 7 years trying to get the project off the ground. However, in June of 2007, the rights reverted to Paradox Entertainment though all the drafts made under Warren remained with them. In August of 2007, it was announced that the Millennium, I can't say that word, Films had acquired the rights to the project. Production was aimed for spring 2006 start, with the intention of having stories more faithful to the Robert E. Howard creation. In June 2009, Marcus Nispel was hired to direct it. In January of 2010, Jason Momoa was selected for the role of Conan. The film was released in 2011 and met poor critical reviews and box office results. I liked the movie. I think he did a great job as Conan. The story is a little, I don't know, a little lacking probably. That's why. But I did enjoy it enough that I've watched it more than once. Alright, so Conan the Adventurer is an animated series produced by Jetlag Productions and Sunbow Productions that debuted on September 13th, 1992 and ran for 65 episodes and concluded on November 23rd, 1993. I'd like to see that one. The series involved Conan chasing serpent men across the world in an attempt to release his parents from eternal imprisonment as living statues. Conan and the Young Warriors is an animated, I did see that one, animated series that premiered in 1994 and ran for 13 episodes. DIC Entertainment produced the show, and CBS aired the series as a spin-off to the previous animated series. The cartoon took place after the final of Conan the Adventurer, with Wrath Amun vanquished, and the Conan's family returned to life from living stone. Conan soon finds that the family of one of his friends are being turned into wolves by an evil sorceress. He must train 3 warriors in order to aid him in rescuing him. Conan the Adventurer is a live-action television series that premiered in September 22nd, 1997 and ran for 22 episodes. Never saw it. It starred German bodybuilder Ralph Muller as Conan. Do I know him? He was known for his roles. So Ralph Rudolph Moeller is German, is known for his roles of Brick Barton in Cyborg, Kjartan in the Viking Sagas, the title character in the television show Conan the Avenger, Haggett in Gladiator, and Thorak in Scorpion King, and Opar in Pathfinder. Oh, I like Pathfinder. Interesting. These are our little rabbit holes, sorry. Okay. The storyline was quite different from the Conan lore of Howard. In this adaptation, Conan is a pleasant, jovial person. Also in this version, Conan is not a loner, but one member of Merry Band of Adventurers. Probably 22 episodes, though. In September 2020, it was announced that Netflix would develop a new Conan TV series as part of a larger deal involving Frederick Malberg and Mark Wheeler from Pathfinder Media, between Netflix and Conan Properties International, owned by Cabinet Entertainment, for the exclusive rights to the Conan library for the rights for live action animated films and TV shows. Deadline had previously reported that a Conan show was in the works at the Amazon Prime, but nothing came of it. According to Robert Rodriguez, while as a guest on Joe Rogan Experience, he pitched a Conan trilogy film with James Cameron involved, but revealed that Netflix had lost the rights to make the series. So, it's interesting to me. Robert E. Howard had no direct descendants. Like, he didn't have any children. So I'm pretty sure the publishing company is who originally ended up owning the rights to his stories. It would be interesting to know who owns them now. It sounds like a corporation, right? Okay, Feely Boy, I'm sorry, I was reading. So, comics. So we have comic adaptations of Conan are arguably, apart from the books, the vehicle that had the greatest influence on the longevity and the popularity of the character. The earliest comic book adaptation of Conan was written in Spanish and first published in Mexico in the 50s. This version was done without authorization from the estate of Robert E. Howard. So yeah, it would be interesting to know who inherited the estate of Robert E. Howard. And is loosely based on the short story Queen of the Black Coast. The first licensed comic book adaptation was written in English and first published by Marvel Comics in the 70s, beginning with Conan the Barbarian from 1970 to 1993. The classic savage of Conan this is the Conan the Barbarian one that I have. And then the classic, let's see, it's 86, 96. Just like that. Yeah, I gotta see if they're all in. It might not be in order. That's 93, 96, that's 95, 97. Yeah. See, that's very Cthulhu, like, right there. Okay. This was 1970 to 1993. I only have some from the 70s. The classic Savage Sword of Conan. I had one or two of those. I don't have them now. 1974 to 1995. Dark Horse Comics launched their Conan series in 2003. Dark Horse Comics published compilations. Oh, that's where you put them all together. In the 1970s, Marvel Comics in trade paperback format. It says President Obama is a fan of the character and collects Conan the Barbarian comic books. So Obama also appeared as a character in the comic book called the Baraka the Barbarian from the Devil's Due. So it takes to know somebody, right? Marvel Comics introduced a readily Lord Faithful version of Conan the Barbarian in 1970 with Conan the Barbarian written by Roy Thomas and illustrated by Barry Woodson Smith. They also did the Red Sonja, if you remember. Smith was succeeded by penciler John Buscema, while Thomas continued to write for many years. Later writers included J.M. DeMatteis, Bruce Jones, Michael Fleischer, Doug Monek, Jim Osley, and pardon if I messed anybody's name up, Alan Zelenex, Shardvixen and Don Krog. In 1974, the Conan the Barbarian series spawned the more adult-oriented black and white comics magazine Savage Sword of Conan. Yes, and I had one of those. I don't remember which one. Written by Thomas with art mostly by Buscemi or Alfredo Alcala. Marvel also published several graphic novels starring the character and a handbook that detailed information about the Iberian world. Conan the Barbarian is also officially considered to be part of the larger Marvel universe and has interacted with heroes and villains alike. The Marvel Conan stories were also adapted as a newspaper comic strip, which appeared daily and Sunday from September 4th, 1978 to April 12th, 1981. Originally written by Roy Thomas and illustrated by John Buscemi, the strip was continued by several different Marvel artists and writers. Dark Horse Comics began their comic adaptation of the Conan saga in 2003, entitled simply Conan, like this one is. The series was first written by Carl Belusket and penciled by Cary Nord. Tim Trumpet replayed Belusket, and when Belusket signed an exclusive contract with DC Comics. However, Belusket's issues were sometimes used for filler. This series is an interpretation of the original Conan material by Robert E. Howard with no connection whatsoever to the earlier Marvel comics or any Conan story ever not written or envisioned by Howard, supplemented by wholly original material, which is typical of a lot of writing is like that. A second series, Conan the Cimmerian, was released in 2008 by Tim Truman. The series ran for 26 issues, including an introductory 0 issue. Dark Horse third series, Conan Road of the Kings, began in December 2010 by Roy Thomas. The fourth issue, and then they have a fifth issue, and a sixth issue. In 2018, Marvel reacquired the rights and started new runs of both Conan the Barbarian and Savage Sword of Conan. Conan is also a lead in the Savage Adventures title, which launched in 2019 and received a second volume in 2022. So, then we have a lot of board games. We have Iberian Risk. We have Fantasy Flight Games, which was done in 2009, which is depicting the warfare between Iberian nations. 2016, we have one called released a Monolith Board Games LLC released a new board game. Is this for your 30?
Yeah.
Okay.
So look, perfect circle on the O.
Yeah. You still have to put the publisher.
Oh.
You still do the book part. You don't write any facts. You have a hard time with that. And you have to put your... Oh, there it is. Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Do your journal. Don't forget. In 2016, Monolith Board Games LLC released a new board game with miniatures directed basically on Howard's short stories Conan. It's one player controlling evil forces against 2 to 4 other players controlling Conan and his companion. There were collectible card games. I want to look at art, but we've got video games, quite a few of them. So in the comic books, some of the characters that they talk about, they don't talk about delay. No. So there was a copyright and trademark dispute. The name Conan and the names of some of Robert E. Howard's other characters are claimed as trademarked by Conan's properties. It says, since Robert E. Howard's Conan stories were published at a time when the date of publication was the marker, 1932 to 1963, however, and any new owners failed to renew them to maintain copyrights, the exact copyright status of all Howard's Conan works is in question. The majority of Howard's Conan fiction exists in at least 2 versions subject to different copyright standards, namely 1, the original Weird Tales publications before or shortly after Howard's death, which are generally understood to be public domain, and 2, restored versions based on manuscripts which were unpublished during Howard's lifetime. Well, if they're in the public domain, I could read them. The character of Conan is believed to enter the public domain in the United States on January 1st, 2028, 95 years from its first publication.
Okay.
Current trademarks on Conan cannot be used to extend Conan's properties. Interesting. In the United Kingdom, they've been in the public domain 70 years after the death of the author. I don't understand how you bounce around like that, but interesting. So who bought the rights? Who has the rights to their movie parts now? Okay, so anyway, that being done, I'm sure that was a lot for you guys. Frank Frazetta, though, makes a lot of like Conan style characters. He has not since then. You know, like I don't think they were called Conan characters, but he is an absolutely fabulous artist, and you can still get stuff from him now. And there has been a few things that they shared that looks very Conan-y, like he has this series called The Barbarian, which looks is basically Conan, even though I don't think it's ever called Conan. But you can buy a mini series for 200 things. But there's a whole series of them. You have Barbarian with an axe, the Berserker, which is on the horse. It's a very famous picture. Mini Master is the chain, and then the brain. And if you ever get a chance, go look at his artwork, Frank Frazetta, because he's just absolutely, I love his artwork. There are DVDs as well where he did animation. But yes, so if you wanted a good personal look at that did great barbarians, that would be Frank Frazetta. Okay, so that being said, let's get into comic books. There's going to be a whole lot there, but my first comic book I bought a series of them. I got like 4 of them for $1, and they were these first 4. Okay, then I would buy them whenever I want. My favorite one of the stories here is I like this one. And then I like this one's pretty good, and then my other one I like is this one, the Sea Witch. So we're gonna look at some of the pictures. I can't read them, but we'll look at some of the pictures. Show you. And now again, these are like the Red Sonja. Conan is the one that I use to draw my pictures a lot. This guy's artwork is just fabulous to me. So here's a really good picture of it. And then we have, you see like this one? That is just, to me, it's awesome if you think about it in comic book form. Again, you will see the difference over a period of time. Like this one, look that detail in it. It's just really, really cool. I didn't really read the comic books for the art. I mean, I liked them, but that's not what I read. Was the art was. I did this picture right here. Her face. To practice expressions when I was younger. So like, this isn't one of my favorite stories of it. So. But it's beautiful artwork. It's beautiful. If you like comic book artwork, it's just really great. I will share some Frank Frazetta pictures with you guys in the Discord if you want. But we'll look at my favorite ones here. They're not in good shape. These comic books are not. A lot of the old comic books I have aren't in good shape because I didn't buy them for a collection. I bought them because I wanted to read them. And you couldn't always get them all on the run, but this is one of my favorite because you see them become closer to each other. And I liked her as a really strong female. But you see, here this is falling apart. So it's kind of why I'm not able to really read these comic books anymore. But they wouldn't be worth anything. They're just worth something to me. That's all. But look at the detail again. I just love it. As a kid, that was like, I just loved it. A lot of my comic books, some of my older comic books I no longer have because there was flooding that was done in, I did this picture right here too. I have that somewhere in my collection of pictures I did from when I was in high school. The storage unit that I had my comic books in when I was in my early 20s, when my mother finally returned them to me, flooded. And since that time, I have not ever had my comic books in a storage unit again because I couldn't vouch for them staying. I mean, they're just paper and paper boxes, so. But I always thought she was more vicious than him. So, this comic book's like in the worst shape ever. Worst shape ever. Conan Barons counts, yes. Frank Frazetta did some animation. Feely Boy, is that who you're talking about? He did animation. Which one was it he did? Let me see. There's the one he did. They had the DVDs, so yeah. I have Frank Frazetta cards that I had collected in the 80s. Let's see. That's cool. Here's a book. Rough Work. Frank Frazetta says. So DVDs. Frank Fazetta's DVDs. You have Fire and Ice. That was the one he did. That was his art. I love Fire and Ice. If you guys get a chance, you should watch it. I don't know where you could watch it. But you could buy it, the DVD, for $44.99 from them. I don't think he did more. Like, he didn't do a lot of that. My other favorite one was this one because I love the lion in it. I like the story too. It's kind of a cool. It's about the Beastmaster.
Okay.
So, yeah. So you have where he meets the lion, and him and the lion hang out together. This also is falling apart, so I'll be careful when I turn it. And then he meets the Beastmaster. It's sad that some of these people who do the artwork of these don't have their own, like, gallery books, I guess. I don't think they do anyway. I haven't looked. Nowadays, everybody has something. Cover's coming off that one. See? But this one, I love to see which one. There's a poem in it that I used to draw a picture with, and I'll read it to you. So he meets her there, the sea witch. think there's a poem out. Or maybe I just found a poem that I thought was really cool. That was kind of like it. That would be probably more likely thinking about of it. You didn't do Tuesdays. What did you have to do in your journal?
Week 6, be
And-
creative with lines. I did comic strips.
Right here?
Yeah, many comic strips, by the way.
Okay.
Some of them are a little are empty because I focused on the other ones. I couldn't figure out what to put there. Hello,
Putting
everyone.
the same effort in on every single one, but
What?
I just said he should be putting the same
Oh.
amount of effort into every single one.
He should, but he's
Yeah.
doing his work.
Trying to get on that, just let you know, that's not the-
Like this one right here, I thought that was a really great picture. Here, I'm guessing, is the comic book strip that they put in the newspaper right here. I think it's here that it says, let me get my glasses. The wild sea is beating against the gray sands. The sea woman, stretches her hands. Her eyes, they are mystic and cold as the sea. With slender white fingers, she beckons to me. There are woods in the sea, though the leaves are all gray. The ocean's pale roses lift dim in the spray. I follow, the gray seagull flies. Ah, woman, sea woman, there's death in your eyes. He ends up killing her, though. Spoiler. She kisses him first, and then he remembers all of his life, and then he remembers who he remembers is he remembers Billet, and he yells, "Billet, in Mitra's name, keep calling me." And then she says, "Don't leave me, Conan," and he says he won't, and then he kills her, pulls her up on the thing, and she's all just seaweed. And then it says, looking out across the ocean, he seems to hear her silent song again. There are woods in the sea, though the leaves are all gray. And then a soft hand upon his shoulder, and the voice is heard no more, either within or without his brain. Conan, my lover, not just your lover, but your love. See, and I think that's why I liked it, because that's where he confesses that he loves her. But then she dies, and that sucks. I don't remember if I Okay, hang on, guys. There it goes. There it goes. That must be the USB it didn't recognize. Alright, Feeloy, hopefully you hear me now. Thank you for letting me know. I don't know how long I don't know how long that was quiet, but it's quiet. Sorry. Alright, so that's it for comic books, really. I mean, this one's cute too. I like this one. He protects the child. This one's okay. They're all great stories. So, if if you get a chance, you find them, or you find them in reprints or something, you should get them. So, all right. So that's it for Conan. Hope you guys like the Conan history book thing. All right. So now it's Lego time. Lego time. Lego time. My bit rate's still really nasty. Yep. I'm sorry. So, let's see if I can put this down. It says the line is excellent, but I'm not seeing that it's moving. Interesting, because I'm no longer doing that. Where's it? Where's the other one? It's just showing what's on that one. Weird. It says I'm streaming, but everything's stuck in the same place. Okay, well, I don't know. Why is that? Why is it doing that? Weird. Let me see. My feed is showing me really odd stuff. Damn. Give me a minute. Let me check this out. See where we're at. Yeah, so the feed's stuck. I don't know why it's stuck, because I'm past that now. So it's not moving. The pictures aren't moving, but the sound's moving. Weird. So refresh it. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, Feely. It's doing all kinds of weird stuff. Because I can hear myself. The sound is right, but the picture is wrong. So give me a moment. My camera is stuck, I think is what's happening. I don't know how to fix that camera. Why? Alright, I'm going to stop and restart my stream. It'll be just a minute. I'm sorry, guys.